Welcome to the Amplified CEO with VC and serial entrepreneur Richard Stroupe.
So are you from this area originally?
Yeah. Oh, I'm originally from Raleigh.
Raleigh. Okay. I know you went to UNC Wilmington.
Yeah. I went to UNC Wilmington, went back to Raleigh for a little bit, and then we realized, what are we doing in Raleigh? We got to get back to Wilmington.
You didn't check out NC State or Chapel Hill, dude?
Growing up there, well, yes, I did. And I thought I was going to go to Chapel Hill, but I was already focused on a business, and I really wasn't as focused on my grades as I probably should have been.
Right.
And then I got into UNCW, and I'm so glad I did. It was an amazing place.
So you were working on a business model before college?
Yeah.
Like out of high school.
Yep.
What did that look like?
All right. Well, we got to go way back for this. So when, and maybe I'll just kind of go tell how I got into all this stuff in the first place.
Yeah.
So when we were just young teenagers, we were into me and my buddies were into surfing and skating and snowboarding and all this stuff. And we wanted to make a website. And at the time, this was, if I was 14, this is 22 years ago, I'm 36. Mm-hmm. And so 22 years ago, if you're going to do a nice job with it, you needed to code it. And so I said, all right, fine, I'll figure it out. I've always enjoyed math. I thought I was good at it. And so I said, I'll figure it out. And I actually loved it. I loved being able to create something. And we made what I think was a pretty great website. But then once people figure out that you can make websites at the time, they said, hey, can you help me? And I said, sure, of course. And we had a family friend that happened to have a PE firm. And he said, oh, we need a website for this business. Can you do it? I said, okay. And I asked my parents, well, what do I charge for that? And they said $3,000. I said, whoa, $3,000, you're 14 years old. And I said, okay. And
that's a great price.
Yeah. And I told the guy, and I said, $3,000. He said, oh, it's a great price. And I said, okay. And because he was getting quotes for much more than that.
Yeah.
And I did a great job, smoked it. And so then that turned into many more websites.
14 years old, other people are like delivering newspapers and you're building websites for $3,000 a pop.
Yeah, exactly.
So you got the bug early.
Yeah. And I was like, this is amazing. And it provided a ton of value to him. He loved it, told all his friends, different portfolio companies. And so then I have too much work and I need to hire a team.
Yeah.
And so then you've got a marketing company and then you're hooked and you see how it works. And then once you learn to hook up a database to it and you can actually make it do things.
Oh yeah.
All right. Then now you can make applications and it just sort of steamrolls from there.
Right.
So that was how I sort of fell into it.
Yeah.
And it was great. I had the bug at that point.
That's a great story. So you and your buddies all from high school, all were into this whole coding and websites and...
Well, they were into still surfing and snowboarding and stuff, and they thought I was a nerd for a little bit.
Yeah.
But I loved it. It was so much fun. So it was really me doing the marketing stuff.
Yeah, that's super cool. Now, did your mom or dad, did they have their own business, or did you have family members that were entrepreneurs?
So my grandfather was actually an entrepreneur. He just had a bunch of barbershops. But then at the time, I think it was everybody should go get with a big company, sort of my dad's generation. And so he was actually with IBM and my mom was as well. They were executives there.
Okay.
They were always entrepreneurially minded. But yeah, I just sort of fell into it.
But obviously, growing up in the Raleigh-Durham area, you're exposed to technologies with your parents and private equity with some of their networked friends, and kind of like just nature took its course there.
Yeah. Absolutely. And some of the influences there, I mean, I think my parents were a huge influence, and I can hear my mom now she actually just recently passed, but we were reflecting on a lot of, thank you. We were reflecting on this a lot, and it's fresh. And I remember her always saying, hey, you can do anything you put your mind to. Or she'd say, you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. And she'd have all these things that she sort of kind of taught me along the way. And I didn't even realize how much she sort of poured into me in that.
Right.
And even to her credit as well, when I was in middle school, I was into all this business marketing stuff or whatever. And she didn't know anything about coding websites or any of that stuff. And so she saw in the paper this guy, his name was Ryan Alice. And he was this kid at the time at UNC. And he was starting this company called Eye Contact. And I needed to do this job shadowing thing. And so instead of just shadowing somebody they knew, they said, hey, well, my mom wrote this guy. He said, yeah, why don't we meet? She drove me out to Chapel Hill to meet this guy. And he had a small team in a tiny little office, very small. And it was great. He was super welcoming. He said, hey, I'll show you what's going on. And so I shadowed him and I'd continue to go out there, and he showed me really what it was like to build a software company. And that was a really amazing experience. And I was still inspired even at the scale that he was at.
Right.
But then I went off to college and we continued to stay in touch. But then I reconnected with him after my freshman year, and I went to his office, and it was the size of my dorm room. Like, I was in Galloway, which they've torn down now at UNCW. But he had this massive office. It was phenomenal. I had a slide in it. I was like, Ryan, how did you do this? This is amazing. Because I remember my mom and I baked him a cake when he got 500 users, and I was doing the job shadow thing. But he scaled that thing tremendously. And then he was just a good mentor and friend. And then he ended up selling that thing for $169 million. And I said, wow. I got to see that from the beginning, and it was inspiring. And there's several stories like that, but I think having that exposure, you're right, of just seeing what's possible. And now, I mean, you can go on your podcast and listen to these stories, or go read it in a book. But I think just being inspired of what's possible.
Yeah, I mean, I tell my kids and others when I guest lecture at universities, I'm like, you've got to get exposure. You got to get out in the field. You got to walk the walk and figure out and find a mentor, find people that would just allow you to kind of shadow them, because you can learn so much just being around that situation. So props to you for seeing it early. I mean, today's generation is hard because, kids are addicted to their phones and, social media and then video games or whatever. And it's like, you got to get out there. And surround yourself with those type of people.
Yes. Yeah. You got to go take a chance. You got to go for it. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's phenomenal.
Yeah. So that was fun.
So out of high school, you ventured down to Wilmington, UNC Wilmington. And I understand you took some classes in entrepreneurship.
Yes.
Was that your major or?
It was.
Okay.
Yep. Major in entrepreneurship, and actually had a business my freshman year that was working decently well. It was a vacation rental business, and where I'd have property managers list their properties, and then you could go on and rent it. You could do the whole booking, availability, and it was working. And I thought, hey, I'll sort of satisfy, my parents wanted me to go to college, and maybe, since I didn't get in Chapel Hill or anything, maybe I'll do this UNCW thing. And then I really want to focus on that business. And then I got there freshman year and I realized this is awesome. I loved UNCW. I didn't expect to go to UNCW because I thought, hey, I'm going to go to Chapel Hill with all my buddies. And, I didn't know what I was going to do. I thought maybe like architecture or even law or something. But then I got to UNCW and I was already pretty deep in this entrepreneurship thing. And then got connected with a professor there, Dr. Steve Harper, who was great. Really appreciated the way that he taught, which even being a freshman and sophomore, he welcomed me into a lot of what he was doing, even though I couldn't get into it yet. And it wasn't just the curriculum. He would bring in different leaders from the community. Again, back to having that exposure. And they were already extremely successful, and they'd come in, tell us their story. And most of them would say, hey, if you have any questions or you want to get coffee, just let me know. Every single one of them, I'd say, yeah, I do want to get coffee. I do want to learn. And, I think that's like for the great entrepreneurs, they had someone show them. And so I think the really great entrepreneurs will always, unless you're trying to sell them something, like if you actually want to learn from an entrepreneur, I feel like they're so willing to say, hey, absolutely, I'll show you how I've done it. And I found that to be true for all the really great
and
ones.
they're so easy to talk to. It's almost like they want to share their story.
Yeah.
They just want to find people who are interested in what they have to say.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for doing your podcast. It's great.
Yeah. I love this. I love hearing stories of others. So yeah. So you had a great opportunity to kind of expand on what you were building, your foundation at UNC Wilmington. Now, before you graduated, I mean, were you kind of like a Mark Zuckerberg? Did you have ideas that you were spinning out of your dorm room kind of thing, or?
Oh yeah. I was trying to get my fraternity brothers to like do sales for one of them and all sorts of random stuff. None of it really went anywhere.
Okay.
The last one at the end when I was graduating, I was building an e-commerce platform, and at the time, it just made sense because I kept the marketing and building websites for people. I kept that going indefinitely, and I mean, certainly haven't done that in a long time. But everyone that wanted a store, right? At the time, Magento was popular. There was even like Yahoo stores was still out. There was just a bunch of random solutions. Shopify was just really getting the initial traction. And I thought, hey, I can do this a little bit better, bring some really good polish to the design of it, maybe do some channel, like if it can list it on different marketplaces for them. And I got some customers on that. Turned out it was extremely difficult to do as me and maybe some contractors trying to make it happen. And realized why Shopify had raised another $80 million, because every store owner wanted a little bit different.
Right. Customization.
Yeah. And so that was where, after I got out of college, I said, hey, look, I worked on that for a year after school and realized like, I can't keep doing this. And I actually worked with my brother for a little bit. He was doing some executive recruiting. I learned a lot there. Got to see some exposure to some great companies like a Citrix and some other tech companies. And then I realized, okay, well, I'm still getting a lot of requests for particular solutions. And a lot of it around e-commerce was, how are you doing retention marketing? And so how are you getting people back to continue to buy or nurture new ones? And so then spun up this company, called it Exit Intel at the time. It was this exit intent software that scaled really quickly. It was novel and got some really big accounts. And it was a software that I created and then hired some contractors to help me with it, built a team. We got it up to, I think, 15 people or so. We had some big brands using it, like at the time, like UGG boots and Teva sandals, and the Knot was paying us like $10K a month to do this solution for them. But made a major mistake with that business, where we got big customers quickly and we customized it. And so although I didn't set out to create another agency, I essentially had an agency, because instead of making that core product better and better and better to accommodate the different use cases, I had this one core product that I created, and then we customized all these different pieces for each customer. And then we just had this mess. We were never going to be able to fix it. And so that took a while. I mean, I ran that for a few years, learned a ton, but realized we had to kind of start from scratch. It wasn't going to work. And so, I'm just going on a tear here, telling you a little bit of the adventure, but with Exit Intel, I tried to spin a company out of that called Ellie, which was more of like a conversion-focused chat solution. At the time, there was Drift. It was decent. Intercom was kind of complicated. And I think we were onto something there. And then COVID hit. And I'd already put a couple $100,000 into this new product, Ellie, because, you know, back then it was hard to code things, which we'll get to in a little bit. But COVID hits and I'm distracted from Exit Intel. I know that it's just not going to scale. It had like a ceiling of about 2 million. We just couldn't get past it because it was so linear in growth. We had to hire a team in order to service the customers. And it wasn't what I set out to build. I wanted to build a software company. And so was working on Ellie, COVID hits. And I think it was a time of everybody's kind of fearful. What's going to happen? Do I have to lay these people off? I really care about these people. And I've been distracted on this other thing. And then turned out that e-commerce did really well in COVID. And that was the customer we were serving with Exit Intel. And so then it continued to scale up, but it couldn't scale because of the scaling problems that I mentioned earlier. And so I brought the team into a room and I put this chart up and I said, all right, this is us right here. We're on this like rickety biplane, old wooden plane. And then I advanced the slide and I said, okay, this is the trajectory of this business. It'll probably keep going, but it's probably not going to work. We're all frustrated. Nobody wants to use the tech we have internally. We don't even give parts of the tech to our customer. We just tell them we'll do it for them. And I was like, this thing's going to go down. And advance the slide. Here's what we need to do. We need to build a new plane. It's down here on the ground. We're on this one. What we need to do is we are literally going to build this one, keep flying this one, take this one off, get it into the air. It was like a jet. This one was a junky plane. Get this one up. We're going to literally jump off of here. I clicked it. It had a stick figure with a parachute coming off of that, jumping off of that plane, getting onto this one. This one crashes and this one takes off. And I was like, we have to do that. There's just no other option. We have to get off of this one. And so that was where we said we're going to build what we called Amped. which was a fully productized, built from scratch. And that team, those 15 people were too busy servicing the core business. And so I had to kind of go off, design it up, work in Figma, brought in a UX firm to help with that, brought in some engineers. We had 17 people in Ukraine at the time working on it. This was before all the Ukraine stuff. And then we had a team of 5 in Poland, and we just went so hard because we knew the solution. We were so close to the customer. We knew exactly what we needed.
Yeah.
I could see it crystal clear. And then got that rolling. And then it like just didn't scale up right away. And I thought, gosh, like what happened? And I realized that I had to make sure that I was really close to the customer too. Although I knew it really well, I was letting my sales guy take it, or, hey, it's just the new thing. We're selling it cheap because it's productized. Like maybe the intern will take it. And then I realized, oh my gosh, I've got to be so close to this customer. And so I was getting on every single call. I was reaching out to folks. I was talking to partners. And then one of my coaches was like, well, how bad do you want it? And I was like, I really, really bad. Like, I really want this to work. And because I kept coming in, like, we got a couple customers. And, then just by really digging in and getting really dedicated to, okay, I need to be so close to the customer and truly help them. And then it slowly started to work a little bit. But let me stop there. I've been going on. That was a really long journey there, but I just wanted to.
Yeah, no, going back. So in the beginning of Exit Intel, so you were working with your brother. What was some of the signals that you saw that prompted you to say, you know what, I'm going to build this e-commerce platform? Like I see a need, an unmet need needs to be filled. What was that moment?
The e-commerce platform was easy. That was just because my customers were asking for it. When I was doing the marketing business, right? Okay. They wanted a platform to sell on, and I would use these other tools and realize how they were inferior. So I was basically a user of those other tools, implementing it on behalf of those customers, like a jewelry site.
Okay.
And so I said, hey, well, I think I can do this better, knowing what I know about creating software.
So were you kind of moonlighting this a little bit on the side, still doing the recruiting business, but still also servicing some of these other small businesses?
The e-commerce platform was out of university. And then that was where I realized that wasn't going to go the way I wanted it to without raising a bunch of money.
Okay.
And the Exit Intel piece was a different variation. That was what focused on customer acquisition, a much more targeted problem. And that was more so I just had people that I was already talking to that asked me for it from the consulting and marketing. And then I realized, all right, well, I could try this much more targeted piece, not try to solve every single problem, but let's just nail this one particular problem. And then realize, okay, I can solve that problem really well and still have a tremendous impact on this business, because I got to see from doing the marketing and the e-commerce stuff what really drove the needle in terms of performance. Right. And this one had an outsized impact. So if I focus on that one solution, which was customer acquisition, then it was a valuable product. And so, yeah, I went up to Raleigh. I was helping him with some of the recruiting stuff, and then got a couple customers on this thing. And I told my brother, hey man, I gotta go for it. And he was an entrepreneur. He said, do it. Yeah. He said, what can I do to help? And then so just
was it all bootstrapped?
Oh yeah.
No funds, angels or anything.
Yeah.
What stopped you from that? Because obviously you did mention that if we raised capital, it could have scaled a little differently. I struggle with the same thing running my own businesses. I was bootstrapped as well, but yeah, what went through your process there on potentially raising capital?
I mean, I don't disagree with the whole raising capital, and I'm sort of getting into that world at the moment, but yeah. I think at the right time for the right business. And I think there were certain points where, yeah, I could have probably taken a little bit extra capital at the right time to go a little bit faster. But I think everybody's journey is a little bit different. I think if you why didn't I raise capital? If that's the question, I would say it would have had to have been too dilutive. Because if you're, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know why. I just believed in what we were doing and just decided we're going to grow it.
I sometimes go back, because you obviously you want to learn from your past. and try to improve your decision making process to go forward. But like even my own experiences, I'm like, why didn't I raise capital? I could have taken $5-10 million, could have used it to deploy and built a team and build these sales channels and kind of expand the product market fit, and maybe we could have scaled further.
Yeah.
But you just hindsight, it's always 2020. But
I think I just didn't know. I was too busy servicing these customers, and
yeah,
I think it would have been helpful. We probably could have gone even further. I'm grateful for everything that we've done.
Yeah.
And I think it turned out great because it was just bootstrapped.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it could have maybe been bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So walk me through, like, because you were in your early 20s, it sounds like, when you were going through this experience. How did that look like when you were building your team? So you had some customers, you had some demand, and you had this idea. How did you find the teammates? So you talked about doing some offshore development.
Yep.
Which a lot of people do that.
Oh, yeah.
For cost savings.
Yeah.
But did you build your own sales team here locally, and how did that look like?
Absolutely. Yeah. And client success was probably the larger function for us. Sales certainly, but yeah, I think Eastern European countries are great for getting the early prototypes done. Now I think AI is also fantastic, which is kind of why we're doing this AI native venture studio. But at the time you need to spend a couple $100,000 and get the prototype out the door,
Right.
and it was iterative certainly, but it just took hardcore coding to get it done. And then when you hire your first couple people, I remember I knew a buddy. A guy by the name of Jeff Stocks. He was a great guy. He was in a Bible study I was in. I knew he had this huge office off Oberlin Road, and he had sold his manpower business years before that. And I said, "Hey, Jeff, you got any office space over there? I'm trying to hire some people." And he said, "Matt, come on over. We'll figure it out." And he was a really good friend. Turned out to be a great mentor. And he gave me an office, and then I started hiring people. Actually hired one of my wife's now like best friends at the time. She was great, trusted her tremendously.
Yeah.
And then, I think as you hire people each time, if you're intentional, you keep getting a little bit better. And those early people, you're going to make mistakes, but you've got to just really try to get the best possible people you can. And then you as the leader is going to set the tone for the culture and the environment. And I think we went through a stage where we had a great culture. We hired the wrong people. We had a crappy culture, but also probably my own fault. I think if you feel like you're walking around your business on eggshells, it's probably your own fault.
Right.
Like, I think,
Well, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're trying to fly the ship at the same time, build it, and to perform over long term. And
yes,
you only know what you know. So
exactly.
Yeah.
And then, I think by the end of it, we figured out how do we create a fantastic culture. And I think that goes a long way. A lot of people talk about it,
Right.
but when you really have it dialed in, you've got great people and great culture, great values, it's fantastic. And for us, what that looked like too was, why was I even doing any of this in the first place? I think it was always to help people. Right? We were helping these businesses with a website to help them do more, help them be successful, and then we'll be successful. And I think that's a core principle of even what we're doing with the Venture Studio is how can we help people, or how can we grow and help people be successful? And in the process, I believe we'll be successful. So helping companies grow and achieve their potential is actually the mission. But at the core principle, if you can do that really well, then I think it works well. And so we had that in our team. And we set our values. When we reset those values, the number one value was love your neighbors as do yourself. And we would celebrate that and reward that if we saw that internally, to the point where we wanted our people to be making decisions that were in the best interest of our customer always. And to the point of it may not even be the best for us, but it was the best for them. And I think that then showed through and created the reputation that we wanted to have as a business. And just even things like where I wanted to also set that tone. And so when we had Amped and it was growing really fast and we're scaling, we were going to try to love on every customer. And I think if you can really love on those customers and help them be successful, then they'll tell their friends. And even if you don't expect anything in return,
Right.
just loving on that customer. And so we saw this one customer sign up and they had like a roller derby apparel business, and the website was goofy, and it just didn't look like we were working with some huge brands, like hundreds and hundreds, got into thousands, but this customer is probably not our top customer that we've seen sign up, right? But I went into their account and I saw it was busted. And so I turned on a Loom video. I hopped in there. I said, hey, just wanted to show you how to fix this. Here's kind of where this got messed up. I went ahead and fixed it for you. Just so you know, next time, this is how you do it. Okay. Like, hey, just want to see you be successful. Like, hope you crush it. All right. Thanks. Send it to her. And she wrote back like, wow, no one's ever treated me like that before. Like, thank you so much. Mm-hmm. And then she said, oh, by the way, I'm also a marketing director at this huge agency, and we have 20 more customers we want to bring on. And and then that turned into how we really scaled a ton is we had hundreds of agency partners, and they'd bring 20 or 30 customers at a time. Mm-hmm. And it was like, we just treated them really, really well. We wanted to help them be successful. And then we knew we'd be successful in the process. And even these agencies we worked with, they would say, oh, well, do you do a referral or an affiliate program? And I was like, look, I don't want to spend so much time trying to just send you a $20 check. Mm-hmm. And I said, hey, like, let's just help you be successful.
Right.
And help your customer be successful. And then hopefully we're a trusted vendor for you. And, we even had one guy that said like, no way, do you know who we are? Like, everybody does affiliates for us. You have to pay us. And I said, I just continue to try to love on this guy. I was like, hey, really appreciate that. And congratulations on all the success. We just don't do it. But if we can help you in any way, let us know. And then he came back later, and then he turned out to be a huge partner, sent a ton of customers our way. Yeah. And it was like, we would never consider doing that. And I was like, okay, like, but it's just not what we're doing.
Yeah. That's great. Stuck to your guns.
Yeah.
And it worked.
Yeah.
You just let your work speak for itself, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's fantastic. So we're talking amped at this point. So when you, from the experience prior, you effectively created AMP, and then what did you do? Transition some of the work over under the AMP umbrella, and then kind of
some was able to transfer.
Yeah.
Not all of it, but some was able to transfer. They were the same type of customer. So we'd say, hey, you're on this old one, and that's like kind of more of like a done for you solution. Mm-hmm. We have this other one, and it was cheaper, right? Like, it was more of a self-service solution.
Right. Yeah.
And so what was an expensive account became not as expensive an account, which isn't usually a great model, but we were going for scale. We wanted to really get something that scaled.
Right.
Product-led.
You have to have that platform.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're in the COVID era at this point. So you started seeing demand explode.
Yeah.
Because
AMP was really just getting off the ground during COVID. Yeah.
And through your affiliates, so they were bringing business to you in order to help their customers become more successful and more visible during this time of, it was like a transformative period in everybody's lives,
Yes.
But it just seemed like the online business exploded because that's where their attention was at the time. So, so walk me through, how did you handle that growth? Like, what did that look like?
We sort of missed what could have been a phenomenal growth rate in COVID, because that was when we said we were going to rebuild from scratch and go with this much more scalable, rebuild the product from scratch solution. Mm-hmm. So we kind of missed like the early like hockey stick, everything went through the roof. But it was the wake up moment of, we need something that scales. And e-commerce continued to ride that high for a while. Things cooled off, but we were still able to grow. And that was in the early stages of really getting amped off the ground. Because although we said, hey, we're going to build this thing, back then you still had to code it all by hand. You had to have engineers do it. So it took months, and probably 9 months to bring it to life, and close to $500,000 to actually invest in this thing to really get it going.
And you're still bootstrapping at this point.
Yeah, still bootstrapping.
Oh my God.
It's insane. Yeah, we were in, man.
What did your wife say about this? Like, she's like, you're crazy. $500,000.
She's a saint. She's a freaking saint, man. And she was right there with me. She was in the business with me.
You were fully committed. Yeah.
Oh yeah, she was all in. Yeah. She was a huge part of the business. She was amazing. Yeah.
That's rare. That's very rare.
Yeah.
Because, a lot of people, they get stuck in the 9-to-5 route, making whatever salary per year. But then when they think about, you're going to put how many hundreds of thousands of dollars in your business? Are you insane, man? You could put it in the S&P 500.
Yeah.
But just like you want to vote on yourself, you're investing in your own capability. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, yeah, I'm still all in, man. I'm ready to go.
I can't wait to talk about some of the stuff you're doing on now. But
Yeah.
so you were going through this transformative period with AMP. So you spent some time, you got your platform, you redesigned, you recoded, you've got everything you need to do, and now the demand is starting to come in, and now you're servicing the demand.
Yep.
Where, when was it that you decided to exit? Did they come for you, or did you hire a broker? Because it sounds like you might have like been in a situation where you're working 60, 80 hours a week, and that has a time limit. You know, you can't do that forever.
But it was so fun at that towards the end there. We had it dialed in. I feel like we got really good at curating and a phenomenal team.
Yeah,
everybody was in it. Everybody was just like loving it. Like it was a little family. It was so much fun, and you know what that's like. I'm sure you've experienced that in your businesses. And we were not looking to sell. And I thought we probably needed to get revenue like well north of 5 million to really start even thinking about selling. So we were just focused on growth, and it was growing really fast. I mean, it was very quick. And we had one strategic partner that we were already doing a lot with come to me and say, "Hey, you know, what do you think about us doing something together?" And I was like, "Yeah, we're already doing a lot together. What do you, yeah." Like, and they're like, "No, like, what if you maybe came and like we just raised $100 million. Like, what if you came over and joined up with us?" And I said, "All right, yeah, talk about it, sure." Went out to Aspen with these guys, spent a bunch of time. Really like these guys; they're great. And you spend so much time on that, and at the time, all right. So thinking back on this, if you haven't sold a business before, which I had not at the time, you're so nervous. We got this really great thing. These guys are really successful.
Yeah, they want us. Yeah.
This could be amazing.
Right.
And I'm calling everybody I know that's ever sold a company. Hey, they haven't like even said they actually want to buy it, but we're sort of in this discussion. I'm after every meeting out there in Aspen, I'm going back and calling them like, "Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? What do I say? What do you do?" I think, that none of that was really necessary, because really you're just having a conversation. Does this make sense? And I think if you've got there's probably different stages of a company, right? Like if you're growing like crazy, that's different than if, hey, I need to like just get out of this business. But we were thankfully in the stage of, hey, it's growing like crazy. And they were sort of dragging their feet. And then another company came out and said, "Hey, we are sort of in the same space. We just built an integration. Why don't we look at maybe doing something? We just raised $40 million, and we raised that money to buy companies." And I said, "All right, look, I'll entertain it." Went out to Austin, spent some time with these guys. Really like those guys too. And I up front with them, I said, "Hey, look, I'm not trying to do just like an all equity deal with a private company. We've worked so hard. This team is so capable." And so they kind of were saying, "Yeah, we'll do it." And that took some time. And then another company, so a third one came, and they were sort of doing roll-ups.
Yeah.
And so they were trying to buy this and this and this, put them together. Okay, great. Well, let's talk about it. And so each time you have that conversation, you just get a little bit better at it. I had a data room. I had all my financials.
Yes.
I had all my projections. I had my customer list, which I'd have to update all the time. Because I'm like, oh, add another 100. It was just, putting more on the list. And it's, by the time you do that 3 times, you're a little bit better. And then I got a cold DM on LinkedIn from this guy from Intuit. And he said, "Hey, want to talk?" And I was like, "Is this just one of those like automated messages, like sales things? Is this like a partnership guy?"
Right. Are you a bot?
Yeah. And I look and it says Corp Dev. I'm like, all right. So maybe. I don't really know that much about Corp Dev. Like, I've heard and I've read, but I'll talk to him. The guy's great. And hey, he says, "Look, we've been trying to build something like this for a long time. We've realized we want to buy. We're looking at a couple of different companies." And apparently they were asking all of their marketing agency partners who's got the best solution, and they kept saying it was Amped. And so he said, "All right, you need to meet the CEO. This meeting's just a head nod. Just get the head nod on this one, and we'll go from there." So, okay, great. So I think at this point I was much more confident, but also you could stand behind a good company. And so we had a great chat, and the whole time I'm just like, "Hey, this is what we're doing. Honored to be in the conversation." And, he called me and said, hey, you got the head nod. I was like, oh, great. And so we had more conversations, and it was nice that I had the others sort of open. This is over the span of several months. This stuff doesn't happen overnight. But the two were still kind of open. One I closed the door on, and but they really wanted it. And so it was nice to be able to say, hey, we're kind of in the process with these guys.
And you did all this without a broker.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal, because usually you hire a broker and they kind of fish around to kind of gain up some interest and maybe put together a deal room and then have an auction kind of thing. But it sounds like you kind of curated your own auction to some degree. You've got, multiple people who are interested in what you are offering, and that's great.
Yeah. And look, I mean, I like I said, I called every single person I knew that had sold a company and said, hey, just confidentially, I'm in this conversation. What should I do?
That's so valuable.
It was great. It gave you the confidence. But also at the end of the day, it's like, we have a really valuable company. We had everything in order. Our books were in order, thanks to our buddy Chris Capone and all this. We had all of our stuff in order. It was ready. And I think at the end of the day, it's just you have to come to an agreement on what the value is.
Right.
And you have to be on your A game the whole way through, but it's also kind of like dating. I think each company might be looking for different things and at the right time. So is there a perfect formula to selling a company? Maybe, but I think it's timing, and it's what are they looking for. And even after the, selling to Intuit, well, let's stay there for a minute, because I think you had a particular question about, what was it like, or let me stop there.
Yeah. I'd love to hear the process. So did they send you a letter of intent, or how did that work?
Yep. We had several conversations before that. And, I wanted to make sure that we didn't get ourselves into anything too binding. And I think when we got to the letter of intent, we had already had very deep technical diligence. We had already talked to the CEO, and it was looking pretty good. And so, they needed to make an offer, and I didn't want to make the first offer. I don't know. Maybe best practice is you throw out a number if you feel confident in it. I just, not having a broker, not having done it before, I just said, hey, you've seen our numbers. You've seen everything about it. So we kind of know the ballpark of what valuations would be on revenue. And so, I kind of leave that up to you guys of, what do you think? And they came back and, brought me a number, and it was still life-changing. It's like an 8-figure number, and I'm like, okay, whoa, like that's crazy, but I kind of wanted a little bit more, and I thought the business was worth that. And it was just the fact that it was scaling at 500%. It was a rocket ship. And so it's funny, I was having lunch with a buddy, and they've had a big exit, and he's just kind of direct and hilarious. And I'm like, man, I got off the phone with Corp Dev. They sort of threw this like soft number out, and I just politely said, wow, like, thank you so much. I'm so honored. But I certainly wouldn't want to make any decisions right now. Let me please, I want to think about that, and I'm going to get back to you guys. Didn't seem too excited, didn't seem disappointed, just great, honored, thank you. Let me get back to you. And so I'm having lunch with the guy. I'm like, man, they just said this on the phone like minutes ago. And the guy from Corp Dev said, hey, just don't take too long, because time kills deals.
True. Time's the enemy of all deals.
And I said, yeah, okay, thanks. All right, well, thanks. Yeah, talk soon. And so I'm having lunch with this guy. He's so cocky. And I told him that story. He goes, you know what else kills deals? Bleeping offers. I was like, what? And he sort of like shocked me out of like, oh my gosh, maybe I should just take it. Maybe I don't want to screw it up. This is a great deal.
Yeah.
And I was like, he's right. And, I was like, we do have a great company. We do have, and I talked to more advisors and mentors and talked it through. And some folks who had been through this deal process plenty before, even some guys who are in the PE world who are really sharp with this. And, although I was afraid to come back and counter, it made complete sense to come back and counter because we had every right to.
Right.
And so I came back and said, I want this. And they said, okay, great. And I said, okay. And then, we put some more paperwork together, and they were, fast and quick acting. And, the attorneys get involved. I had a good attorney through the whole process. But I was really hands-on driving through a lot of this. And, we closed it. And then I was getting on a plane to go see them in Atlanta. They have a really big office in Atlanta. I think they spent about $500 million on it. It's insane. Mm. And so I'm getting on this plane to go to Atlanta. We closed the deal that day, and I got an alert on my phone that the wire came in, and I go, oh my gosh. And the plane takes off. Yeah. No internet. Yeah. I'm sitting there like, what? Yeah. I can't talk to anybody. I can't call anybody. I'm looking out the window. I'm looking at the person beside me. I'm just like, what is this? This is crazy. Yeah. And that was a neat moment to sit there and be like, wow, all right, God. Like, that was really, really interesting. Curious to see what's next here. This is interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
And so how long did that process take? From LOI to close?
Well, it just took a while to get even the initial. I think we came to that agreement on number over the course of maybe 2 months, with talking almost weekly, and then getting to the final close. I'd say another 3 months, maybe. So I don't know, maybe 6 months, start to finish, which was pretty quick.
Yeah, that's typical. You know, for a publicly traded company, sometimes it takes a little longer. But for smaller deals, I think the threshold's under 30 or 40 million.
50.
Yeah, is it 50 now? Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, bigger deals take a lot longer, go through the regulatory commissions and stuff. But, but no, it's phenomenal. Congratulations.
Thanks.
That's amazing.
Thanks. It was fun.
So when did this happen? Like,
this is about
time frame?
2 years ago.
2 years ago. All right.
Closed
so you're still fresh off of the acquisition.
Yeah.
Do you have an earnout, or was it completely 100% up front? I mean, obviously some deals have some escrows and things like that. Like, are you still having to work a retainer type of thing?
So kind of. And it's also a caution to entrepreneurs of like, make sure you understand the structure of the deal.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned getting a good lawyer. I mean, obviously you got to have a solid team that can walk you through all the terms, because you really don't understand some of this stuff. Like, wait, what does this mean?
I'm grateful that it turned out to be a great deal, but also even some of those other ones when they were making offers of like, oh, it's going to be this equity portion and it's this valuation, but wait, where's the cash, right? And so some of it's common sense.
Yeah.
And Intuit was just transparently half cash and then half in stock, which is great because it's publicly traded stock. There are restrictions on that stock.
Right.
And, I get it slowly over time. And I've gotten most of it. There's still some. And that's been, so that's been good. So it's been very good.
Now, did you share any of this? Did you have like a stock option plan with your employees? Did everyone participate in the deal? And are they actually now Intuit employees, or did some of them get laid off?
Yep. So I owned 87% of it, and then the other was spread out between options with the team.
Yeah, that's good.
And so they did make some money, and everybody got significant raises and bonuses and tons of stock options, different things. They did hire everyone on, which was great.
Yeah.
And Intuit does 3 types of deals. Each company's probably got different types of deals they do, but Corp Dev is kind of show me their playbook, which is, they're either going to buy an ongoing concern. So like a Credit Karma, Intuit's bought that, keeps it going. Or it's like a tech tuck-in, they call it, where they want to buy the technology and the team, integrate it into the company. Or it's an acquire, where they just don't need the tech and they're just going to hire the team in, which actually happens quite often. Ours was the tech tuck-in in the middle.
So they're all fully Intuit employees at this point. Did you have any issues with transitioning your culture from, because I know my first company, I had that problem where I sold to a strategic, and after 6 months, like the emails change, the website changes, your badge changes. It's like your benefits change. It's like, wait, what happened? So I'm like, So it's a little bit of a ruffled feather, a moment,
Yeah.
especially you get used to things. So
Well, most of the benefits got better in terms of financial.
yours got better. Okay, good.
Like,
Yeah.
we had good health care, but, there's just so many perks with a big
Yeah.
company. Like, we had another kid and I got, they give like 4 months parental off and stuff like
Wow.
that, which was
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
But the culture was difficult, I will say. Just going from 20 people having a fantastic time,
Mhm.
growing this rocket ship, to going into a much larger organization, it's a bumpy ride. It was a bumpy
is.
ride.
Yeah. I don't think a lot of people understand how important that is.
Yeah.
Well, they underestimate it because they just assume that everyone's going to be happy. Like, this is great, more opportunities, better experience, da 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 da. And then it's like, wait, but we're flying under a different flag right now.
Yeah.
And that feeling is just different. Yeah.
And I think they accommodated as much as they possibly could. It's just purely from 20 people to what was it, like 17,000 people at the time.
Right.
It was like, okay, well, there's just
Yeah.
going to be different rhythms. And
Yeah.
I think the CEO and CPO, I think they did as good a job as they could have integrating it. And actually the AMP store is going to be more of like a bit of a case study of like a successful acquisition where it's fully integrated, because a lot of times maybe the tech doesn't get integrated or it doesn't go through. And I think I worked really hard with them to make sure that the team was well taken care of and that they as smooth as it could be. And we still kind of reminisce on it.
Yeah.
I talked to some of the old AMP folks yesterday, and it was like, man, that was so much fun. I was like, yeah, that was a really fun.
Maybe we can do it again in a few years. No, I know.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's fine.
Honestly, that's one of the reasons I sold my first company, because I was in my mid 30s. I had some different challenges than you did, but but one of the things I thought about is like, I'm still relatively young and I can do this again at some point in the future. If I could just stay true to my course, fulfill my obligation, and get through this phase, then I come out on the other side, higher capital deployment, way more experience, and higher value.
Yep.
So that how could you not think about doing something down the road? Because
absolutely, and I'm so grateful for it too.
Yeah.
Like, that capital piece is great because now instead of like feeling so stressed about that, you can make some strategic bets.
Yeah.
So totally agree with that, but also the experience, right? Like being able to sell and integrate and come into an organization at that level and stay on with them to help them do a successful integration. What does that look like to take your technology, smash it into this larger company?
Yeah.
Great learning experience. And then I always wanted to make sure I was treating it as if it's my own and doing a great job. I was never going to just try to mail it in there. And so they actually gave me quite a bit of scope, and I was leading the whole MailChimp product end to end, specifically for serving e-commerce companies. And so we shipped a ton of great solutions. We shipped 70 different features all across the application. It was fun to be able to get up there and like fire everybody up. This is what we're doing, and be there with the CEO, chief product officer, and then chief product officer said, hey, like what else do you want to do? And I was like, hey, we buy a lot of companies, and I'd love to help us with some of that work too.
Yeah.
And so she said, great, well, go work from the product side with the corp dev team. And so they taught me their playbook. And then I put together a thesis of what we needed, and we went out and looked at 20, 30 different companies. And one of them being a really cool full circle moment was the thesis actually lined up perfectly with a fellow Wilmington guy's company, Nathan Snell. It was Rayleon, and he was actually employee number 1 at Encino. And really sharp guy, so smart. We had reconnected, I don't know, a couple years ago, and we're reconnected because I said, hey, I'm back in Wilmington and full-time. And funny, he actually came to talk to my entrepreneurship class way back when with Dr. Harper. He came to class, and he came with Chip Mahan, and they came in and they said, hey, we've done this Live Oak Bank thing. We're going to spin out this technology thing called Encino. Nathan here's employee number 1. He's going to figure out this technology thing.
Yeah.
And they obviously did, IPO'd it.
Yeah.
And then Nathan was doing this Raytheon thing, and he started really getting traction, and it just coordinated perfectly with the time that I'm doing this corp dev work too. But it wasn't even just, he had the exact technology we needed, and he was the exact profile, and his team as well. And so we acquired his company, gosh, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago now. And that was really a full circle moment to kind of be able to see it all. So I've done the startup, I've done the scale up, I've been on the other side of the deal table now, and now that's why I'm so excited to do this Amped Ventures.
Yeah, it's a lot of great experience.
I'm like, exactly like you said, all right, I'm so ready to do this again. And what a time to be a builder with what we can do now. And even just how deep I've gone on AI, and I've led a lot of different things inside of Intuit for how do we do a better job of that even to move faster. But if you do that in a startup environment,
right?
I mean, what did take 9 months and $500,000 or a couple $100,000 now might take a weekend.
Correct.
I mean, I think it's still very hard to do all the things right to build a company. Like reflecting back, right? We need the culture, we need the team, we need to hire well, we need to run the right processes, whether that's we implemented EOS, the entrepreneurial operating system. Like it's still going to be really hard to grow good companies. But that first part, I think we can go a lot faster with AI. We got to make sure we're pointed in the right direction, but also kind of having the experience that I've had now, I believe that I can really help early stage companies to make sure they're pointing in the right direction, make sure they're serving that customer well, make sure that they're actually solving a real problem for them, loving on that customer, and then just help them go a lot further, a lot faster.
Yeah, that's a phenomenal business model. So walk me through that a little bit. Like, how does that work? So you just recently launched Amped Ventures.
Yep, Amped Ventures.
So is it more of a fractional CTO type model where you're helping build an MVP for a founder's team, or?
I think candidly we're open. It's not like a consulting shop. It's more so we would either put some investment behind someone, build a team around them. But we also have like a couple internal ideas that, hey, I was going to hire this engineer and this designer anyways. And if it's at this early stage where we're just experimenting and we go so fast with AI, well, we'll work on these two, and we can also help a couple others try to make it real. And then when they get to a certain stage, great, they need to have their own dedicated resources. But in the early stages, if we've got the playbook and we've got the team and we've got the capital, can we help spin these companies out faster? And that's the whole thesis and the whole theory. We're just getting going, but I'm doing this anyways. Like the whole reason I said, hey, we're gonna do a venture studio is, well, I was gonna do it anyways. I was already hiring that engineer and that designer. I was like, oh, wait a minute. There's other folks that have great ideas that I could absolutely help. And so it just makes sense.
Yeah. Is it more of an accelerator where you're bringing in maybe a founder and kind of nurturing their business models and their team, and then kind of spinning them out to kind of maybe get to that seed or pre-seed raise?
It's similar to an accelerator, although different. It's more like getting a co-founder. Okay. It's not just an initial sprint. It is something where we are trying to quite literally help take these companies and stay with them operationally and take them all the way. So it's not just a single phase.
Okay. That sounds really cool.
Yeah.
Are you working exclusively for Wilmington-based startups, or are you open nationwide? Like, what's your regional footprint look like?
Again, candidly, I don't think I'm opposed to going outside of Wilmington, but I do want it to be in Wilmington. I think we're living in a phenomenal place. And even if I talk to a founder right now who's in Raleigh, I'd say, why don't you come on down to Wilmington? The quality of life is fantastic. We've got some really smart people here. I tell people a lot.
Yeah, I'm really surprised. Like, there's a lot going on here. Matter of fact, I was having a conversation with Jim Roberts over the weekend. There was an article that came out talking about Stanford and how venture capitals organizations start nurturing potential founders like freshman, sophomore year in college. So they take this exclusive population size, i.e. Stanford University, which is very selective anyway, and then they start nurturing these graduates, I guess you could say, these students, into molding them into potential founders. Are you basically doing something similar here where you're kind of working with young founders in the Wilmington area?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Last week met with a bunch of young early founders, and I think it's just really, I want to make sure that we're not giving them feedback or advice that is not going to resonate. And even just the simple fact of, hey, you've got this cool tech. I met with this guy this week. Hey, that's really interesting. Well, who have you tried to actually help with this? And it's going to sound cliche, but I think when you put it in that lens of like, who are you helping with this? And what problem is it solving for them?
Right.
I don't want to sound like I'm coming from a textbook, but truly I think it's that's the blocking and tackling that needs to be done. And so, okay, great. Well, let's get you in front of some of these people.
Right.
Go talk to them.
Yeah.
Does this tech help? There's just a neat tech that you created. And so I think just being able to give that kind of feedback and help people really refine those ideas. And that stuff I'm just doing because I love it.
Yeah.
But if it makes sense for us to get involved, then great. But I think I've got to have those conversations. I'm sure you have a lot of those conversations. You're probably at a later stage than the conversations that I'm having. But I think it's so needed. And I feel like I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
I was telling my wife, like, I feel like this is what I'm created to do.
Yeah.
Like, I think God truly created me
you've been
to do
basically doing this since you've been 14 years old.
Yeah.
You kind of found a niche where you can help enable your customers, i.e. other founders, whoever it is, fulfill their goal and their quest by helping them kind of collapsing that discovery phase. Because I always look at companies in two phases, discovery or acceleration. Yes, I like to focus on the validation or the acceleration phase where they need capital so they can run faster, harder, and to just see how far that value can create. Whereas you're stuck in discovery, you're still trying to prove your model, trying to prove your team and prove your customer set, which is kind of like where you're operating out of and helping those companies overcome some of those challenges and hurdles.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you mentioned, that's phenomenal. That's great. I mean, I think this market is perfect for what you're doing. I would probably recommend maybe, looking at all North Carolina, maybe Southeast region, because there's a lot of talent, outside Wilmington area. I've talked to Jim about this again. We have to be able to connect with other like-minded organizations like his. And, up in Washington, D.C., one of my guys, Matt Kittleman, he operates this thing called VC in DC, which effectively is kind of like new in Wilmington, but it's for that DC metro area. If there's one for Charlotte, Atlanta, maybe Austin or Nashville, it'd be great to kind of have like a collective where we can kind of like hopscotch all over the place and do some things that you're doing for other people.
Yeah.
It will be awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I just feel so fortunate to live here in Wilmington. I'm not, hey, you have to be in Wilmington, but I would almost say, why would you not be in Wilmington?
Yeah. In your opinion, like, what's missing? Like what do you, because there's a lot of great things here, but there's also some things that could improve. Like, what do you think could improve?
Well, credit Jim Roberts. I think he's doing a great job and very vocal about the region. Yeah. He's fantastic. And gosh, what do we need here in Wilmington? I think there is money. I don't think we're in a place where there's not enough capital. You're here, there's others here. And I think if you've got a great idea, you can find it. I think that where maybe we can help a little bit with Amped Ventures is that early stage, that little bit of guidance. Hey, you've got an idea, but did you consider this? Or who's that customer? How are we helping them? And I'd love to maybe even see more of the folks that are in town get activated in that space a little bit, because there are so many people here that have been extremely successful and they're living the lifestyle that they want to live. But just how do we, they want to contribute. Like I said earlier, like these entrepreneurs, they want to help other entrepreneurs. How do we connect those dots? And I think Jim's doing a good job with it. We've got this AI roundtable that Jim and I are actually doing tomorrow, which is going to be great.
Yeah.
And that whole thing is, I called Jim and I said, hey, we need to do this. And I almost find it similar to, you hear about the homebrew club back in the day in Silicon Valley, which was, they were tinkering with computers and they didn't really know exactly where it was going, but they thought it was neat and it was cool and they were going to learn from each other. And that's the same thing I want to see us do here, where we can say, hey, AI is just moving so fast. And it's not just the young guys. I'm seeing all age groups come to me and go, hey, I just did this in Claude, or I just created this, or I've had this idea forever and now I can make it real. And I've got this agent doing this thing, and I set up OpenClaw, and I set up Hermes, and I'm doing this, and they're doing it here in Wilmington.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's get everybody together on a recurring basis and just share what's working.
Mm-hmm.
And it might just be, let's just trade some ideas. Like, hey, I helped my uncle create a new, or my father-in-law. He's got a life sciences consulting company. He's got like 70 consultants. His website was total crap. And I was like, well, let me help you just fix it. I didn't charge him anything, obviously. And I just said, hey, I'll just made it with AI. And then he needed a bunch of changes.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a lot of people involved. And so I put him in a 3-way text chat with my assistant, OpenClaw. And I said, hey, I'm introducing Wells into the chat. He's going to make all the updates for you. He's just texting with it. It's fixed his website.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I mean, what you can do now is just mind-blowing.
Yeah, it is.
And so it's fun when I have coffee with these folks or meet with people and they just blow me away by their workflow. Hey, I'm using this tunnel to get into this and this Claude and this agent. It's fascinating. And I don't know exactly where it's all going. I don't think anybody really does, because tomorrow there's going to be some other model that blows our mind. Yeah. But let's at least get together and share what's working.
Yeah.
And so that's the idea. Is we want to learn from each other. And there's, I think we can find great ideas together, or maybe found companies together, or maybe there's investments to be made. Who knows? But like at that homebrew club, right? Like Steve Jobs showed up with like the Apple One. I was like, hey, look at this cool thing.
Right,
It's like, maybe that happens right here in Wilmington.
I love it. I mean, we've always had this desire to have more technology-based groups, like-minded individuals coming together, just creating a spark. Yeah. Talking about technology, talking about how, it could change certain things or introduce new features. Yeah. We have to have more of that. So I'm really happy that you've created this.
Or even one guy, he's a commercial real estate guy, not technical at all. He showed me what he created, and there's a lot of complexity to looking at commercial property. What is the cap rate? What does this look like? What are projections? He's got all these formulas and these spreadsheets that he's had for ages, and he just made an application with Claude. He doesn't know how to code, and he showed it to me. It was actually pretty good. And you could take a property, evaluate it, put a whole cash flow statement together, it puts it out as an output. Like, you can do all these evaluations, and they were legit because he's been doing this. He's an expert in his field. So it allows these experts to say, hey, I have a deep industry knowledge and I know what I need, and just make it real. And you don't have to spend all this money on an engineer. Right. But that early part, I believe, is still like, take that expertise, put it into this product. You know what you need as an industry expert. But to take it from there is also why I'm excited about Amped Ventures, because great, now he's got this thing. What does he do with it? And is it actually built right? I mean, but still, AI can still fix some of that stuff. But how does he go from industry expert created this thing that's helpful for other people to turn it into something much larger? Because everybody's now basically an entrepreneur.
Right. Yeah. Access to technology, especially with like Claude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Yeah. That's awesome. Very cool stuff. So what else do you like to do outside of your venture studio? And
well, we've got a just turned 5-year-old boy. We've got a 2-year-old boy and a 7-month-old girl.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. So it's full throttle.
Yeah. 3's a handful. Yeah.
So full throttle. Yeah. But it's great. They're super cute. We have a lot of fun. We love just where we live, obviously. Get out to the inlet, anchor up, or just to whatever. It's just such a beautiful place to live.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you live in Hampstead or Wilmington proper? Or
we live in Wilmington.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. Yep.
Yeah.
3 kids, a new venture studio, and a whole head full of ideas. Lots to look forward to with you.
I just, it's fun, man. It's such an amazing time to just be a builder, and there's so much opportunity. It is kind of scary at the same time, because who knows, is Anthropic going to come out with a new model tomorrow? I don't want to be competing with Anthropic directly, but I think these tools can enable entrepreneurs to go so much faster.
Right.
So we're not trying to go build the next model. I'm not trying to create some model, but I want to leverage these tools in these businesses to make them AI native so they can go much faster, much further.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. So for any founders or people who are thinking about starting a company, how can they reach out to you and connect with you in your venture studio?
Yeah. Amp.io. AMPED.io. You can go read about why a venture studio. It compares a venture studio against maybe an incubator or a VC, shows where it lives in that journey. There's some FAQ on there to learn some more, and then send me an email. My email's on there, also LinkedIn, but definitely just want to be a part of the community. And I think just genuinely lean into that. How can I just help other people be successful? And I think we'll be successful.
Yeah.
And I don't think we have to put deals together even too soon. It's like, let's just be helpful. And then I think the deals will come together and are coming together.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. Then, of course, attending your meetup.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So we're going to have this AI roundtable quarterly. The first one, we've got 50 people signed up. It's already sold out. We got another 20 on the wait list. And I know there's people that said they're even going to show up regardless. So it should be a good event. We got to make sure we have enough drinks, and we'll do it quarterly. So Jim Roberts, it's really kind of a new event under his network for entrepreneurs in Wilmington.
Yeah,
the AI Roundtable, which it's just turned out to be a really cool partnership. And we'll just keep doing it quarterly. And
I believe there's going to be a lot of people looking forward to learning from you and what you're doing. So,
and I also want them to learn from all the other people in the room. I'm still blown away by the stories I'm hearing of you connected what to what, and that it's so much. It's amazing. It's wild. It's cool to learn from each other.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thanks again for coming by.
Absolutely. Yeah,
it's great sharing your story and learning more about you and your background.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yep, and I'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
All right, see you tomorrow.
All right, thank you.
Amplified CEO is produced by Topsail Insider, edited by Coastal Carolina Network, and sponsored by Cape Fear Ventures. For more information about Amplified CEO, Richard Stroupe, or Cape Fear Ventures, please contact Krista at 910-800-0111 or Krista at topsailinsider.com.